Hello, people of the internet. I am DI Gremlin, and welcome to week one of whatever heck season this is of the PTL. I am DI Gremlin, proud coach of the Southend Stoutlands, and this week we are kicking off our title defense to see if we can retain our title in D1, but probably not. I'm taking on Lux, who I have not played before, but Lux was in the finals of D2 last season, and I believe won D3 a few seasons ago, so definitely a solid opponent, and if you can't tell, has a very, very solid team. I expected this exact 6 to come, because Lux has only 7 mons, and one of those mons is a Shaman, which I didn't really expect. So I am bringing a really slow, bulky Choice Scarf Tapu Lele, an Assault Gudra, a Eject Pack, Leaf Storm and Rotom Mow, Scarf, Adamant, Staraptor, really bulky Scrafty, and Absol with Thunderbolt for the Tapu Fini. So not bringing too much crazy stuff, but well, you know, it's a tricky matchup. It's a matchup which both of our offenses can completely destroy the other's defenses. So I'm going to have to play very, very carefully around threats like Excadrill and Thundurus and stuff like that. But I decided that my best possible lead was always going to be Staraptor. I can U-turn on basically anything, and I can also just one-shot everything on his team. So that is my plan, and let's see how it goes. So I lead off with my Staraptor, he leads off with Cinderace, and turn 1 I have a decision to make, because in my head, I'm thinking, he knows that I can one-shot him here. Like, Double Edge one-shots him all day long, so I should U-turn. He's going to go T-Tar, I should U-turn, 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 U-turn. And then at the last moment, I thought to myself, I mean, he doesn't know that I'm Adamant. He doesn't know that I'm Scarf. He can probably assume both of those things, but maybe there's a 1% chance that he stays in here, thinking he can live a hit, and if I U-turn, it's just such a bad situation for me. I really can't switch into the Cinderace, so I just decide to play it safe and just go for the attacking option and just go for the Double Edge. And worst case scenario, he goes in a T-Tar and I get information on its spread. So he does switch into the T-Tar, so I wish I U-turned, but Double Edge damage tells me that he's at the very least max HP. He's definitely an on the bulkier side T-Tar, and I can just go safely into my Scrafty. He gets Rocks up. So if I'd have U-turned, he wouldn't have gotten Rocks up, and Rocks are pretty bad for me in this battle. They chip down my Gudra quite a lot, and I have no removal this week. But my Scrafty is in, and he is going Tapu Fini every single time, so I can very, very safely just go for a Super Fang and put that thing in range of basically everything that I needed to. So that is amazing. That's such a good turn for me. But now I can just very, very safely go into my Rotom. And then fire off a Leaf Storm, and then hopefully as he switches into the Thundurus, I can get momentum as I eject Pack on out of there. So that is my plan. I go into my Rotom, and he just fires off a Moonblast, and he gets the special attack drop, which activates my eject Pack. And I'm like, oh, that was terrible. That was absolute worst case scenario. I'm pretty certain he would have switched into the Thundurus, and that kind of like 30% that Rotom can get off on it is really, really crucial damage, and that might come into play later. And then I actually have like a pretty difficult decision, because I have to choose who to switch into, and I can't go into my Rotom, which is kind of like my best thing for this Fini. So I go into my Lele, my Tapu Keke, who can easily one-shot this thing with a Psychic, but I am Choice Scarf. And I don't really want to lock myself in a Psychic, as he has the T-Tar still hanging around. So I figure Moonblast is my best bet, and I do think he's going to preserve this thing, just because Mega Absol is such a big threat to him, and this is the only thing on his team that like can realistically live a hit from Absol. He doesn't know I have the Thunderbolt, obviously. So I just go for a Moonblast, and I believe he actually stays in, lives the Moonblast, goes for a knockoff, and crits me and gets rid of my Scarf. So that was a terrible, terrible turn. I lost my Scarf, so my Lele is pretty useless in this battle, and he got a lot of damage off on me. So now I expected him to go Excadrill here, and just finish me off. But he actually goes Thunderous, which is really interesting. I mean, obviously he knows he can outspeed me and one-shot me, but it means I'm going to get a little bit of intel on his set. Now, I'm expecting either kind of a mixed Life Orb set, like U-turn and knockoff and stuff, or a Nasty Plot set, because I didn't bring my Nidoqueen to this matchup, so he'll definitely need Psychic on this thing. And realistically, those two sets are the only sets that really take advantage of my Nidoqueen. But as we see here, he goes for a Thunderbolt, and he doesn't take a Life Orb damage, which leaves me kind of thinking this thing might be Choice Scarf. You know, he brought this thing, he goes for a T-Bolt. I'm thinking that, okay, I can go into my Goodra. It's pretty much the only thing I can go into. Obviously, if he's Scarf, he's going to outspeed my Staraptor, which isn't great. And my Goodra can just fire off a Dragon Pulse. It like covers all of his switches, and it two-shots this thing. Ice Beam doesn't even one-shot, so there's no reason to Ice Beam. But yeah, and as we'll see here, he does not click U-turn, which means that, again, I'm really thinking that thing could be Choice Scarf. And he goes into Cinderace, which can't do that much damage to me, so I just fire off a second Dragon Pulse. And he goes T-Tar, which I have Superpower for, so at the moment, I am just firing off hits with my Goodra, and he goes Excadrill, which is fantastic. I needed to get some chip damage on this thing to put it in Sucker Punch range from Absol, and now I've got all the damage I need on it. But at this point in the game, my Goodra is getting pretty worn down. It's a little bit weakened, and I still have my my Maniac, my Yobbo in the back. But I decide that at this point in the game, if I keep my Goodra and my Scrafty healthy enough, I'm going to win. Basically, if Scrafty is healthy, Excadrill can't beat me. If Goodra is healthy, Latios can't beat me. And Staraptor and Absol are easily good enough offensively to deal with the rest of his team. So I don't really need my Rotom. It's far too weak to realistically do anything here. And, you know, maybe there's a chance that he doesn't have Poison Jab, but obviously he does. I guess I find that he's not Scarf there, but he was never going to be Scarf. So I just go into my Scrafty, and Crunch covers all of his switches, because there's no way he stays in, and I crit the Latios. I crit the Lati, and there's no getting around that. That crit is enormous. That crit is absolutely enormous. That Crunch was going to do about 70%. And so he could, I don't know what he would have done. Presumably he would have gone for an attack and got some chip damage off of me. I am an Assault Vest Scrafty, so it wouldn't really do much. It would do maybe 30%, something like that. But that's enough damage to put me into range of other stuff, and I need to keep my Scrafty as healthy as possible. So that is big. That is a big, big, big crit. And now he goes into the Cinderace, and I run the calc, and I'm like, yo, Pyro Ball only does 40%. I'm going to knock this thing out, get a lot of health back with my Drain Punch. I'm going to be in a pretty good spot. I'm going to be in a very good spot. If my Scrafty is still going to be healthy enough to deal with that Excadrill, I think I'm going to win the game. And he just goes for High Jump Kick, and I'm like, why am I so stupid? Why did I not think of High Jump Kick? Why was that not on the calc? That is terrible. That is absolutely terrible. Now my Scrafty is too weak to do anything. I have to sack it to the Excadrill. And now we have what can only be described as a coin flip. This is an absolute 50-50 here. Now there's only one turn left of Sand. So he can't really go for a Sword Stance. If I go for a Sucker Punch and he Sword Stances, then Sand runs out the next turn, and I can just go for a very, very safe knockoff, and I believe I should win the game from there. So he can't Sword Stance. Obviously, if he stays in and Earthquakes and I Sucker Punch, then I get rid of this Excadrill, and I'm in a very commanding position. But as I'm about to click Sucker Punch, thinking that, I realize to myself, what if he goes hard into Thunderous here? What if he goes hard into Thunderous? If he goes hard Scarf Dundee on this Sucker Punch, he basically wins the game. Because I then have to... I don't have the damage off on Thunderous that I need to put it into range of Sucker Punch. And I need Sucker Punch to beat this Excadrill in Sand now that my Scrafty is dead. So I guess I have to sack my Staraptor and then go into my very weakened Goodra, and all he has to do is keep that Thunderous healthy and he wins the game. So if I Sucker Punch and he switches, I lose. if I go for a knockoff and he stays in an Earthquakes, I lose. So it's an absolute 50-50 for sure. But I think to myself that in his mind, Sucker Punch is 100% my better play. Like, Sucker Punch is absolutely my best play from his perspective. So I think he's probably going to try and cover that and go into Thunderous and try and win the game. And I am going to make the play. I'm going to be ballsy. I'm going to trust my gut, and I'm going to go for the knockoff. And we see that he stays in, but he goes for a Sword Stance. He makes the bad play in Sword Stance. And we see he was Expert Belt. Now, that was a bad play. I'm going to be honest, that was a bad play. Because had I gone for a Sucker Punch there, Sand would have run out the following turn. I can go for a knockoff. He pretty much has to sack his T-Tar. So he can do that. He can sack the T-Tar. But then I don't have the T-Tar to worry about. So then when he comes back in with the Thunderous, then I can sack my Staraptor, go into Goodra, go for the Ice Beam, everything is range of Sucker Punch. He doesn't have enough turns of Sand left. I can spam Sucker Punch and win the game. But now his Extra Drill is gone. I can just go for a Sucker Punch here. Just get as much damage off as I can. I don't want to risk him. Like, I don't know that he's Scarf, but him being Scarf is the only way I can lose the game at this point, so it feels kind of dumb to not try and cover that play. And so now I'm on my Goodra against this Thunderous, and I'm running the Calcs. And, I mean, he has to switch out here. There's no two ways about it. He has to go into his Tyranitar. And the thing is that I'm going to take some rocks. I'm going to take a few turns of Sand damage, and I'm going to lower my defense with Superpower on killing the T-Tar. Which means that actually, if he does have the U-turn, if I take 2 rounds of Sand damage and a defense drop, I'll actually be in range of U-turn. Whereas if I only take 1 turn of Sand damage, I'm not in range of U-turn. So I have to make the prediction here and go for a Superpower. But Superpower also, like, basically killed the Thundy. It might have put it in range of Sand, so even if he stayed in, it might have been game anyway. But it looks like his best move to hit me is just the Sludge Wave, so I can just Ice Beam him and win the game 2-0, and my god, that was a stressful game. My butt cheeks were extremely sweaty throughout that end game, and I mean, it basically came down to a coin flip. There was pretty much one bit of hacks on both sides. That early game special attack drop Moonblast, it didn't look like it mattered that much, but I knew that was a big special attack drop. Losing my eject pack, not being able to get the damage off on the Thunderous, which would have put it into range of Sucker Punch, and Absol would have just won the game from like turn 2. That lost me so much momentum. That basically lost me my Rotom and my Lele on a special attack drop. But then I crit his Lati, and like, there's no two ways about it. That crit on Lati was enormous. I'm not sure I could have won the game without that crit. I think he said that he would have preserved the Lati and then sacked it off later when the Absol 50-50 comes around. And that makes a lot of sense, because then he still has his Excadrill, his Thundy, and his T-Tar. So it makes that 50-50, like, not even a 50-50. You can just sack the Lati freely, because it doesn't really do a whole lot from at that point. But anyways, like, it doesn't really matter. Well, I mean, it does matter, but it doesn't. Because I won. And I actually won Game 1 of the season, which can only mean bad things, because both times I've won the PTL, I actually started off 0-2 both times. But yeah, that's really good. That's really, really good. I was pretty happy with how the team performed. I thought, to be honest, we both brought pretty standard stuff, and I don't know, I felt like we both played pretty solid. It was so close, it just came down to that 50-50 at the end. But yeah, so I won week 1, which never ever happens, and we just got to keep that train rolling now. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye!